So this is the person that supports Blake Lively.
Blake's case was anything like her legitimate case.
Well, Your Honor, I think this is outrageous. You're going forward without the prosecutor.
In a courtroom twist no one saw coming, Blake Lively's lawyer had just sabotaged her entire case by accidentally dropping evidence that did more harm than good.
A letter that was sent from an individual, a lawyer. Her name is Elise Dorsey, and LA Times was saying that a separate letter of interest was also filed by Elise.
Blake is absolutely going to jail as her previous lawyer left, and the new supporters were nothing she thought of.
Blake is an accuser. She's not.
Yeah.
I honestly think that Blake's scandal and new supporters would undermine the credibility of the Me Too rule before it even gets off the ground.
Kind of created this new Me Too law, and they wanted Judge Lehman to use it in Blake Lively's case.
To understand why Blake Lively's courtroom drama is sending shockwaves through Hollywood, we need to rewind a bit and go to 2017.
Everything is falling down for you guys because people perceive you as bullied.
That year, the Me Too movement exploded like a long overdue truth bomb. Brave women, and some men, spoke out, naming names and forcing a reckoning. Harvey Weinstein fell. So did others. It was messy, it was painful, and it was necessary. But of course, not everyone was thrilled about this new accountability fad. Enter the defamation lawsuits, a clever little trick for powerful folks to say, "How dare you ruin my reputation with your facts?" Because apparently, courts are only here to fulfill your personal benefits.
Because it was like right on the heels of the Me Too thing, and nobody wanted to say anything.
That's where Elise Dorsey comes in, a survivor and attorney. Or it was what we thought about her. But later on, we realized she was nothing like a survivor.
Looked into the legal case from Elise Dorsey, and I have to say, it is worse.
Dorsey has built a reputation as a staunch advocate for legal protections that shield victims from being re-victimized through lawsuits. She's one of the key voices behind California Rule 47.1, a newly passed legal safeguard designed to protect victims of sexual harassment and assault from retaliatory defamation claims. This new legal protection, effective as of January 2024, was hailed as a landmark achievement.
It's all about this 47.1.
But now, that victory may be on shaky ground, because the very first person to invoke Rule 47.1 in court is none other than Blake Lively. And that's where things get controversial.
Besmirched by Blake's name is so upsetting to me.
That's a good word.
Blake, who built her brand on curated authenticity and not rocking the boat, is suddenly waving the banner of legal protections designed for the very survivors she never publicly supported when it actually mattered. She's now neck-deep in a defamation countersuit after accusing Justin Baldoni of sexual misconduct, and her legal team is scrambling to paint her as a silenced truth-teller, protected by 47.1.
For the women who fought so hard to get this bill passed as a rule, I'm sure they're like, oh, it's finally going to get used. And I'm sure they're like, oh, good, it's such a big public case.
Right.
So I think their feeling behind it.
At least they know that this California law is going to ruin Blake Lively completely. Critics, including legal experts, feminist voices, and even former allies, argue that Blake is using the law not to seek justice, but to shield herself from consequences after making highly questionable allegations. Instead of standing as a victim, she's being seen by some as a celebrity attempting to manipulate public sympathy and hijack a legal protection for personal brand management.
Be so careless with who they're backing, to be honest. It's kind of embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, you know, and like I said, they're besmirching. They're gonna have their rule.
By turning this deeply important legal shield into a public relations weapon, Blake Lively risks turning Rule 47.1's very first test case into its most damaging one, and possibly undermining the very protections survivors fought so hard to achieve. As if this criticism wasn't enough, Blake's new lawyer, Laura Prather, ruined her case in court by enraging the judge with her stupidity. Because nothing screams grassroots justice quite like Blake Lively suddenly becoming the face of legal reform, her legal team didn't just bring arguments to court, They brought fan mail.
Were sent to Judge Lehman. One was from 3 organizations, and they were saying that they were the ones who kind of created this new Me Too law, and they wanted Judge Lehman to use it in Blake Lively's case.
Multiple organizations sent glowing letters to Judge Lehman, claiming they had a hand in writing the very laws inspired by #Me Too, all while politely nudging him to pretty please apply them in Blake's favor. But the real crown jewel was the heartfelt letter from Elise Dorsey, who shared her tale of being sued for defamation and how it traumatized her all over again.
Her name is Elise Dorsey, and LA Times was saying that a separate letter of interest was also filed by Elise Dorsey, a former federal employee, an SH survivor.
Dorsey's message, conveniently picked up by the LA Times, painted a chilling picture of how the legal system can be used to muzzle victims, right before she was used by Blake's team as emotional cover for a courtroom PR stunt. Her new lawyer started proudly telling everyone that Dorsey is reeling behind Blake, and her support clearly means that Blake is a victim just like Dorsey. However, this move quickly unraveled. Opposing counsel, Brian Friedman, seized the opportunity to scrutinize Dorsey's past, bringing to light her controversial legal history.
Looked into the legal case from Elise Dorsey, and I have to say, it is worse than Blake Lively.
The drama ignited after a viral expose video by internet investigator Cassidy O'Connell resurfaced, one that dove deep into Dorsey's past and tarnished the image of the brave survivor that Blake's lawyers tried to spotlight. According to the expose, Elise Dorsey had allegedly engaged in a secret 11-year extramarital affair with a well-known university professor. Not only was the professor married, but Elise was too.
It's crazy! So this woman had a relationship to this professor.
It seemed like Elise and Blake had a lot of things in common. Elise's scandal didn't end with the affair. When the professor reportedly tried to end the relationship, she allegedly turned aggressive. She was said to have appeared unannounced at his workplace, threatened to expose him, and ultimately filed a sexual harassment lawsuit against him. At first glance, it sounded like another #Me Too case, until the receipts came out.
As he's claiming, the relationship was consensual, and he was showing a lot of text. There's a lot of text messages in the legal filings as well, where you can see their text back and forth.
These receipts destroyed her in the same way Justin's website destroyed Blake Lively. Text messages and emails leaked in court filings painted a completely different story of Elise's lawsuit. A long, romantic, consensual relationship filled with endearments and mutual affection. There was no power imbalance, coercion, or predation in the relationship. Just 2 adults engaged in an extramarital affair gone sour. The professor countersued Elise for defamation, and after months of legal volleys, the case was quietly settled out of court, with both parties signing NDAs.
And she had to pay him. The amount is not disclosed anywhere.
This proved that Elise was never a victim. In fact, she used the court for her benefit, to take revenge on her insult, and to humiliate the man with whom she was in relationship with all her heart. Hence, her name caused the damage to Blake's case.
In retrospect, when you see these things and you know exactly what her plan was all along.
Once Dorsey's name was brought up in Blake's case, the internet pounced. What was intended as a legal reinforcement suddenly looked like a PR disaster. Overnight, Elise Dorsey transformed from a supportive survivor to a questionable figure whose past lawsuits resembled the very abuse of legal process Blake was being accused of, turning her from asset to liability in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Dorsey, Blake's supposed moral support, was being used as a case study in legal manipulation.
I don't know, I feel like because of Blake Lively, these cases will start popping up. I don't know what to think about this case, actually, because I don't know enough facts already.
The courtroom atmosphere shifted. The judge looked visibly displeased, questioning whether Blake's legal team understood the risk of dragging Dorsey into the spotlight. What was meant to solidify Blake's position under Rule 47.1 instead undermined her entire case, shifting the focus from her harassment claims to the credibility of her legal argument. The fallout was swift. Legal analysts, commentators, and the public began to ask, was Blake Lively invoking Rule 47.1 to protect the truth or to escape accountability?
Specifically told her on the phone not to cancel that appointment, that it wouldn't be a problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to be here for the decision, that's your business.
Well, according to Blake's previous lawyer, she wanted to escape accountability. In a moment that left Hollywood legal circles reeling, Blake Lively's longtime attorney publicly resigned from her case, and not with a quiet exit. Instead, the legal veteran issued a carefully worded, yet unmistakably damning public statement, a move practically unheard of in an industry built on PR spin and legal discretion. His message was clear. Blake was not just difficult to represent, she was actively compromising the truth.
We actually want all evidence to come out that's proper and appropriate evidence.
In the carefully curated statement, the attorney cited irreconcilable ethical differences and expressed deep concern about the manipulation of facts in a way that misleads the public narrative. Though names weren't directly named, the subtext was deafening. Blake Lively was allegedly bending reality to suit her version of events, even as mounting evidence painted a very different picture.
This was a sinister PR move. Blake Lively then moved 11 days later.
Blake was orchestrating a victimhood storyline to gain legal and social leverage, an accusation her now former lawyer clearly no longer wanted to be associated with.
I think she genuinely wanted this to be a PR move, and she wanted to leak it to the New York Times. She thought the public would take her side with no questions asked, and instead the public is saying, no, we have a few questions here.
The resignation came on the heels of a devastating scandal that many believe triggered the attorney's exit. This devastating scandal was the digital receipts leaked by Baldoni's legal team. In an attempt to substantiate her harassment claims against Justin Baldoni, Blake's legal team had submitted screenshots of text conversations as evidence. But almost immediately, eagle-eyed observers, and, crucially, Baldoni's attorneys, began pointing out glaring inconsistencies.
And Justin Baldoni is going all the way to the wall on this. His lawyer is already giving interviews explaining just how nasty her team has played this.
These inconsistencies told Blake's lawyer and judges that she is indefensible now. A forensic analysis of the messages revealed that the texts had been heavily edited, emojis had been removed, entire responses were missing, and several entries were rearranged to create a misleading narrative. One message that allegedly showed Justin being intrusive was later revealed to be taken out of context. Part of a longer, flirty conversation initiated by Blake herself.
She went to that civil rights office. Take a listen.
There was actually no allegation of sexual harassment.
Even worse, Baldoni's team dropped the ultimate bombshell, the original, unedited chat logs, complete with timestamps and emoji trails. These logs showed Blake inviting Justin into her trailer, undercutting her earlier claim that his presence there was unwanted. I must say that the legal ramifications were severe.
Ali, I think the way she has behaved, so this is just heartbreaking.
When a legal team fabricates or alters evidence, it doesn't just weaken their case, it obliterates the court's trust. Judges don't forget that. And juries are far less forgiving when deception enters the record. Kevin Costner's lawsuit is an example of it. Surprisingly, his case now casts a long shadow over Blake Lively's ongoing legal saga.
But it seems to me if they have text messages showing that contradicts what she's saying, I feel like this is a kind of a Blake Lively situation here.
The story centers around Devin LaBella, a stuntwoman working on Costner's upcoming film, Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 2. According to LaBella's lawsuit, she was coerced and misled into performing a scene that simulated a violent sexual assault, which she claims was not properly disclosed in the script or during pre-production discussions. LaBella alleges that she felt violated and blindsided on set, a serious charge in an industry still reckoning with the post-Hajj Me Too landscape.
I'm sure that he's going to file back Kevin Costner very soon to,
But here's where it gets messy. Costner's legal team hit back hard, presenting receipts in the form of text messages, behind-the-scenes photos, and even reports of a group dinner attended by LaBella after the scene was shot where she was reportedly laughing, socializing, and showing no visible distress.
2 years after this incident apparently happened, and if they have evidence that she knew about this scene,
judges were quick to shut her down with a disapproving frown. And the same is going to happen with Blake. Blake's previous lawyer moving out, and the so-called accidental legal leak from the new one, invoking Elise Dorsey's name and unearthing her scandalous past, may have been the final nail in the coffin. With the judge expected to release a formal statement soon, insiders believe the real verdict is already in. The case is morally bankrupt. What are your thoughts about it? Do share with me in the comments section.